Now let's try to identify the part of speech of each of the words in this sentence. According to the official U.S. Census in 2019, the population of Mississippi was almost 3 million. Well, let's start with the question I always ask, and that is there a verb? We have a lot of words here, but we only have one verb. Can you find the verb? So the verb here is the word was. That's our verb. And now I have to ask myself, who or what was almost 3 million? And I want to find a noun. I'm trying to find the subject. So in order to find the subject, we always ask ourselves, who or what did the verb? Who or what was almost 3 million? And of course, you know it needs to be a noun or a pronoun. And the nearest noun is the word Mississippi. But Mississippi was not almost 3 million, right? What was almost 3 million? And that's the word population. So population is the noun. It's also the subject of this sentence. This sentence really is population was. So what about this chunk of Mississippi? Well, you probably recognize that Mississippi is a noun, name of place, and you have of, which is going to be a preposition. And then of Mississippi is a prepositional phrase. And you may remember that a prepositional phrase really has very little impact on the verb. And when you're trying to find the subject of a verb, the noun Mississippi has a job already. The noun Mississippi is already the object of the preposition of. In other words, Mississippi is working with of. It's one chunk. The subject of a sentence is not going to be found inside a prepositional phrase. This noun can only do one job. And the job it's doing right now is being the object of a preposition in that phrase. So you could almost eliminate it. And in fact, when I know students are having problems trying to find the subject of a sentence, and the subject is often separated from the verb, in this case by only 2 words, but it could be separated by 2 words or 5 words or 15 words in a long academic text. So what I tell students to do is find all of the prepositional phrases, which are usually pretty easy to identify, and then just eliminate them. And if you do that, if we were to come over here and just cut this out, now we have population was. And that's actually a clear example of what the sentence is talking about. So the population of Mississippi was almost 3 million. Let's keep going. We have almost 3 million. And so there are several ways to analyze 3 million. You could say that million is the noun and 3 is describing it. But I'm going to say that 3 million is one chunk here. And 3 million is, you could view this as one big noun. If you wrote it as a number, you would certainly write it as 3, 000, 000. And in that case, it would be one number. But because we have the word T-H-R-E-E here, I'm going to say that million is a noun and 3 is an adjective. It's describing million. And now we have the word almost. Well, if you could say 3 million and the million and this million or 1 million, that slots an adjective. And if you could say my 3 million, because I won $3 million in the lottery, for example, and I have my 3 million, then my would be an adjective here. You could have an adjective my because you could have my million and 3 million. In other words, they're 2 independent words. The point is that my 3 million, my doesn't touch 3. It doesn't modify 3. It modifies million. But it's not almost million. Almost is actually talking about 3. And what part of speech is 3? It's an adjective. What do you call a word that modifies or describes a verb, an adjective, or another adverb? And that's an adverb. So this is an adverb of degree. It's like very or so or really. It's telling how close to 3 is it? Is it almost 3 or halfway to 3 or sort of like 3? Really $3 million? Those would all be adverbs. Here we have the word almost, which is an adverb modifying the adjective 3. And then we have the word the in front of population. Of course, that's an article. We don't have a category called articles. We do have a category called adjectives. Articles, by default, go into the adjective category if you only have 8 parts of speech. Now, you see this comma? That's very important. Commas indicate grammar. Commas don't indicate, hey, you should pause here. If you're writing a speech for somebody, you might go through and put in commas to help the person who's going to read the speech to be a little more dramatic and know where to pause exactly. But a pause in terms of grammar is different from the comma in terms of grammar. A comma indicates a grammatical pattern. Something's happening grammatically. So in English, we like the subject of the sentence to come up front, to come very near the beginning. So sometimes you have a sentence such as, I went to the store yesterday. You might be able to put one word in the front and say, yesterday I went to the store. But we don't like to have 5 or 6 words up front before you get to the subject. And because the population, our word population here is the subject of our sentence here, and it's not the first chunk, there's a high chance we're going to find a comma, and that's what we have here. So we have this chunk of words, and I'll read those again. According to the official U.S. Census in 2019. Now, you're either going to have some kind of individual word, single word like yesterday, or you're going to have several words, that's going to be a phrase, or sometimes you're going to have a subject and a verb, such as before I went to the bank, comma, I went to the supermarket. I went to the bank, I went to the supermarket. But I'm going to ask you this question now. In this chunk of words, and we've got 2, 4, 6, 8 words here, do you have a verb? And the answer is no, we do not have a verb. So this is some kind of phrase. Whenever you have a phrase, the most likely example, the most likely label is going to be a prepositional phrase similar to of Mississippi. Now, there's no of here, there's no in, there's no at, there's not a word that you would recognize as being a super common or super frequent preposition. But I will tell you that this is a big prepositional phrase followed by a smaller prepositional phrase. So our first chunk is going to be this. According to the official U.S. Census, and then when? In 2019. Let's start with the easy one. In 2019. 2019 is going to be a noun. It's the name of a time. And you might say, well, it tells when. In 2019 tells when. But in terms of grammar, 2019 is the name of that time period. And a name of something, that's a noun. How do you also know that it's a noun? Because the word in is going to be a preposition. And if you have a preposition, preposition, and that position word is usually going to be a noun or a pronoun, but usually a noun. If you have a preposition, you need to have a noun or a pronoun somewhere in that sentence. You can't have a true preposition without having a noun somewhere. So in 2019 is a prepositional phrase. You've got preposition in plus the noun 2019. And now we're left with this chunk, according to the official U.S. Census. And I'm going to guess that the easiest word for you to identify the part of speech of here is going to be the word census. So census is going to be a noun. And then which census? Is it the census of France, the census of Japan, or the census of the United States? Here it's a U.S. Census. Now I agree, this is a noun, and usually it is a noun. U.S., it's a place, the name of a place. But because this noun is in front of another noun, whatever goes in front of the noun, chances are high it's going to be an adjective. So it's functioning here as an adjective. Remember that a part of speech is the function of the word, not the way it looks, not the shape. Just because a word has an ing, for example, it doesn't mean it's a verb. It depends on what that ing word is doing in this sentence, right? So this slot is in front of a noun. Chances are very high it's going to be an adjective, and it is. Then we have the word official. So you can say it's a U.S. census or it's an official census. So U.S. describes census and official describes this noun also. That's going to make it an adjective as well. And then we have the word the, which is an article. We don't have a category called article. That makes it an adjective also. So now we have the official U.S. Census. And then we have according to. This is not according and to. According to is one grammatical unit. So this is 2 physical words, but it's one function, and that is a preposition. You may remember that there are many single word prepositions. Those are the easy ones for you to recognize, such as at, on, in, of, from. There are also 2 word prepositions, such as according to or due to the rain, comma, we couldn't go on the trip. So, and there are also 3 word prepositions. In spite of the rain, comma, we decided to drive to the mountains. So according to is a 2-word preposition. And so here is our sentence now. According to the official U.S. Census in 2019, comma, because the subject hasn't started the sentence here, the population of Mississippi was almost 3 million. And those are the parts of speech for this sentence. If I had to guess which word caused you the most grief, I'm going to guess it was the very first two words, according to. I'm going to guess that some of you saw the ing and tried to call it some kind of verb. Well, you can't have a verb beginning a sentence unless it's a question, such as, was Joe at the meeting? So we don't have a question mark over here, so that can't be an ing kind of verb thing starting the sentence out. You may have tried to call it a noun, and in that case it would have to be the subject, such as swimming is fun. None of that's happening here, but the bottom line is, the most important thing here is that according to is a two-word preposition. How did you do on that one?